Hi guys, I hope all of you are doing well. So I welcome you all to yet another video in this AWS Data Engineering Certification course, and in this particular video we are going to talk about how we can create a MySQL database instance in our RDS. So in the previous few videos we have already talked about how we can create and how we can launch a MariaDB instance, as well as we have also talked about that how we can launch a Microsoft SQL Server instance in the RDS. So if you have not watched those videos, so I can recommend, or if there is a need, I am not saying that you have to watch that particular video, but if there is a requirement and if in case you have to launch a database engine such as Microsoft SQL Server or MariaDB, so the process of launching those database engines are different or are going to be different from the MySQL DB instance. So according to the requirement or the database engine that you would like to launch, will follow different, I would say different paths. So you can watch the video accordingly. I will title and I will label the video in that particular way itself. So with that said, let's get started with this video and let's get straight into the system. So today's topic is going to be creating and connecting to a MySQL database instance. Okay. So this tutorial creates an EC2 instance on an RDS uh, for MySQL database instance. The tutorial shows you how to access the database instance from the EC2 instance using the standard MySQL client. As a best practice, this tutorial provides a private database instance in a VPC. Okay. So as we are already aware about the fact that we will be launching our RDS instance or our RDS database instance, in this particular case MySQL database instance, inside a private VPC, right? We will not allow our database to be accessible via the internet or maybe accessible via its endpoint, right? And what we will do is we will try to access our database client, or I would say our database instance in this particular case, with the help of a standard MySQL client. So we will install a MySQL package on our EC2 instance, okay, and via our EC2 instance we will be connecting to the MySQL database instance that will be launched on the RDS. So in most cases, other resources in the same VPC, such as an EC2 instance, can access the database, but the resources outside the VPC will not be able to access it. Okay. After you complete this tutorial, there is a public and private subnet for each availability zone in your VPC. In one availability zone, the EC2 instance is in public subnet and the database instance is in the private subnet. Okay. So again, the architecture of this particular video will be something like this. So if I talk about MySQL RDS instance. Okay. So we are going to launch a MySQL RDS instance. Cool. So in this particular case, what firstly we will be doing is, the very first thing that we will do is we will create an EC2 instance. Okay, not this big. Okay, so we will create an EC2 instance. Okay, so we will create an EC2 instance. Okay, and this particular instance will be inside a VPC. So this instance, or if I talk about the larger aspect of it, right? So this instance will be firstly inside a region, right? In our case, our region will be AP South 1. Okay. So it will be inside a region. So let me make it not gray. Okay, like this. Okay. So firstly, it will be inside a region itself, right? Then inside a region, there will be an availability zone for sure, right? So inside the region, we will have an availability zone. So availability zone, right? Let's suppose this is AP South 1B. Okay, let's say it can be in any of the availability zones, right? Let's suppose this is in availability zone AP South 1B. Cool. Now inside this availability zone, we will have our VPC. So inside this availability zone, we will have our VPC, right? And now inside this VPC, we will launch our, firstly, we will launch the EC2 instance, right? And then we will launch our RDS instance. So let me, in this case, use the database as the RDS instance. Okay. And it will be launched something like this. And I can say as RDS MySQL DB instance. Okay. So this will be my RDS instance. Now the main things comes into the picture. Okay. So this EC2 instance will be, it will be inside a public subnet. Okay. It will be inside a public subnet, and our RDS instance will be inside a private subnet. So this instance will be inside a private subnet. Okay. I hope till here the things are clear, right? Our EC2 instance will be inside a public subnet. Our MySQL database instance, RDS MySQL database instance, will be inside a private subnet. Now these two machines are able to communicate with each other because they are in the same VPC, right? So here the communication is allowed. I can mark it as green, and this thing also I can mark it as green. Okay. Now if I am an external user, right, and I want to use, okay, I am a user, right, outside this particular region, outside the availability zone and outside this particular VPC. Now if I want to communicate with this particular MySQL database instance, by any means I will not be directly able to communicate with my RDS instance. So this communication is not allowed. Okay. So not allowed, I will say. Right? This communication direct to the RDS instance is not allowed. If I am a user and I want to communicate to the RDS instance, so in that case, first of all, I will have to connect to my EC2 instance again, right? Again, connecting to my EC2 instance will require proper authentication. So if I am proper, I can say authentication successful. In that particular case, I will be able to connect to the EC2 instance, and then via the EC2 instance, I will be able to communicate with my RDS instance, and here it will be communicating using MySQL. I'll be installing what? I will be the standard MySQL client. Okay, so I will be installing MySQL client. Okay, I will be installing a MySQL client on my EC2 instance. Cool. Now, if by for any means this authentication is not successful to my EC2, even this particular connection will not work and I will not be able to connect. So I can say authentication failed. Okay. So if the authentication is failed, then also I will not be able to connect to my EC2 instance, and obviously in that case I will not be able to communicate with my RDS MySQL DB instance. Okay. So all in all, this is what it's gonna be in this particular video. So after you complete this tutorial, there is a public and a private subnet for each availability zone in your VPC. In one availability zone, the EC2 instance is in the public subnet and the database instance is in the private subnet. Important, there is no charge for creating the AWS account. However, by completing this tutorial, you may incur costs for the AWS resource that you will use. You can delete these resources after you complete the tutorial if they are no longer needed. Okay. So like creating the account, right? It will not charge us anything. We can create an AWS account for free, but whatever services we are going to use in this particular video, if you are new to AWS, right, and if you have your free tier account available, so you will not be charged even a single penny for even creating the resources, right? I will make sure that you will not be charged even a single penny. If you are a new user, if you are an old user and your free tier is over, in that particular case, you will only be charged for the amount of hours, or I can say the amount of minutes you have used the resources for. After that, we will be deleting and we will be terminating all our resources that we will create in this particular video. Okay. Again, I would highly recommend you guys to, even though if your free tier has been over, right? So what you guys can do is you guys can create a new Gmail account. If you have another Gmail account, using that Gmail account, just log into your AWS account and then you can continue using that particular AWS account and avail the free tier things, right? Free tier services. Why I'm suggesting you this thing is so that you don't even get charged for whatever 500 or 1000 rupees, right? If you have that capability and if you have that budget to spend that particular money, then it's totally fine. You can go ahead with the paid tier also. It's totally depends on you how you wanna how you want to basically do the things, right, or learn this particular thing, I would say. So here you can see the following diagram shows the configuration when the tutorial is complete, right? So we will have a region, right? Inside this particular region, we will have an availability zone, right? And inside that availability zone, again, we will have the VPC, and inside this VPC, we will have a public subnet. So let me open my Epic Pen. Okay. So here, right, we will have a region, right? Inside this particular region, we have our availability zone, right? That is denoted by this thing. Okay, this is our availability zone. And then we have our VPC. Inside our VPC, we have our public subnet where our EC2 instance is running, right? And inside the private subnet, we have our MySQL database instance. And using the MySQL client, okay, we will be able to communicate between our EC2 instance and the RDS. Okay, so this is how the communication will work. Again, if I try to access using the internet directly here, so this connection will not be possible. Okay. So this tutorial allows you to create your resource by using one of the following methods. So the first method is we use the AWS management console. So create a MySQL database instance and then create an EC2 instance, or use the CloudFormation to create the database instance and EC2 instance, which is again optional, right? So here we will create VPC, EC2 instance and MySQL instance using the CloudFormation. So CloudFormation again is a service, right, which is we usually say as the infrastructure as a code service, where we will not have to launch, or we will not have to go to and fro to all the services that we want to launch. We can just write a YAML file or maybe a JSON file, and in that particular JSON file we will try to mention all the configurations that will be required for all the services that we use, right? And each and everything will be described in that particular YAML or JSON file. And with the help of that particular file itself, one single file itself, we will be able to launch multiple services at the same time, I would say. Okay. So how we'll be doing it using CloudFormation, this also I will show you, but in the further videos, not in this particular video. So the first method uses the easy create to create a private MySQL database instance with the AWS Management Console. Here you specify only the database engine type, database instance size, and database instance identifier. Easy create uses the default settings for the other configuration options. When you use the standard create, you can specify more configuration options when you create a database instance. So there are two options to create your MySQL database instance. The first option or the first method is the easy create method, where you will not have to describe multiple things. You can only describe your database engine, you can describe your instance size, and you can describe your instance identifier. You just have to describe these three things, and the rest of it will be, you can say rest of the settings and the configurations will be taken care by the AWS itself. So there will be some kind of default values that those configurations and those settings will have, and the default values will go as it is. If you are using the standard create option, in that case you will have more flexibility, more options to choose from, right? Then and you can choose multiple things like you can specify more configuration options. So these configuration options will be same, right? There won't be any kind of difference in the configuration options in easy create and the standard create. It's just that here each and everything will be taken care by AWS in the easy create. In the standard create, you will be given all the options to choose by yourself. Okay. You can specify more options when you create a DB instance. These options include settings for availability, security, backups, and maintenance. To create a public database instance, you must use standard create. For more information, you can go on to this particular link. Now, the topics here we will be prerequisites and creating an EC2 instance, create a MySQL database instance, then we will connect to the MySQL database instance, and then we will be deleting our MySQL database instance. We can also connect our database instance to a Lambda function. Okay. Talking about the prerequisites. So before you begin, complete the steps in the following section. So first of all, sign up for the AWS account. Obviously, if you are not having your AWS account, in that particular case, you will not be able to launch, or you will not be able to basically use any of the services, right? Before anything, right? Before using any service or any application, having an account is the first and the foremost thing, right? So you have to sign into your AWS account. I have already created a detailed video how you can sign up to the AWS account, right? If you haven't watched that particular video, what you can do is, just like we sign up in any other application or maybe any other platform, I would say, where you have to enter your email, you have to enter your password, then you will get some kind of OTP or some kind of secure link where you have to verify your email, and that's it. That's how you will be able to basically sign up to the AWS account. Once you have signed up using into your AWS account, okay, so let's suppose you have used some email as x@gmail.com. Okay, let's say this is the email that you have used to sign up. Now this email is considered as the root email for your account. So this user or this email we called as a root account. Now this from the so it's usually recommended by AWS. It's not mandatory, right? We can do everything from the root account itself, right? But it's recommended by AWS developers themselves that from this root account we should create at least an admin account. Okay, we should at least create an admin account, or I would say an admin user. So this will be a sub account of the main account. This is not the main account. This is a sub account. Okay, but even this sub account will have all the admin privileges, and how it will have all the admin access or all the admin privileges is by attaching the policy, the admin policy. And how we will be able to create a new user, right? How we will be able to attach the admin policies and all those things, I have already talked about it in the previous video. So if you haven't watched that particular video, again, you will have to go back and watch that particular video. to understand these concepts. Okay. Again, so from this root user, I can create multiple users according to my use. Okay. It's recommended that we should not use our root user for our day-to-day task. Instead, we can create another user or another sub account from my root account with which is having admin access, or maybe it can only have that access that is required for doing that particular task, right? But here we can give the admin access so that we don't have to go to and fro, right, to multiple accounts to every time maybe attach a permission or maybe detach a permission. Okay. So this is these are the prerequisites before continuing to this particular video. So if you haven't done these things, if you haven't signed up, or if you don't have your admin access or admin user, I would highly recommend you guys to first of all create the admin user and then you continue with the video. Else, if you are even having your root account, so at least for this video, right, you can use your root account itself, and then after watching this complete video, you can create your admin user. Okay. Then what we will do is, first of all, we will create an EC2 instance. So to create an Amazon EC2 instance, you will use create an EC2 instance that you will use to connect to your database. Okay. So to create an EC2 instance, sign into the AWS management console and open the EC2 console at this particular link. Okay. So either I can just sign into my EC2 console, right? And here in the in the recently visited section, I am having my EC2 itself, or else I can, on this top search bar, I can search for EC2, right? Or else what I can do is I can just click on this three things. I can click on all services, and here also in the compute section or in the compute category, I will be able to have my EC2 instance. Or you can directly just click on this particular link and you will be redirected to the EC2 dashboard. Whatever feels comfortable with you, you can follow that particular, you can follow that path. Okay, hardly matters. Okay, so this is my EC2 dashboard that I am having, right? So in November, right, I have charged this much. In December, this is the charge that I have incurred, and in January, right, January month till now, this is the charge that I have been incurred. Okay. Now, in the upper right corner of the AWS management console, choose the AWS region in which you want to create the EC2 instance. Okay. So I will come back here, and on the top right corner, I can choose from multiple reasons that where do I want to create my instance, in which region do I want to create my instance, right? So we have already talked about these concepts, right? We have talked about regions, availability zones, and local zones, right? So I hope all of you are aware about what exactly the region is, right? And we have also talked about this, that we should always create our resources close to us if we are doing it maybe for a personal project or something. And if we are developing a product, so we should also always make sure that we are deploying our resources or our AWS services closer to the main chunk of our user, right? Let's suppose if I'm having an insight that, or maybe if I'm aware about the fact that most of the users of my service are going to be in the USA region, right? They are like most of them are going to use it in the USA as a country, right? In that particular case, even though I have created it in India, right, and I am currently in India, but I will be deploying my resources in the US region so that it is closer to my users, and the latency and the recall time and all of these things are very, very less as compared to the Mumbai region. But currently, because right now Mumbai region is closer to me, and currently I'm not expecting any kind of user on my resources, so I will be creating it in the Mumbai region. Okay, so here I have selected Mumbai. Cool. Now I will choose EC2 dashboard and then choose launch instance as shown in the following image. So I will come back here and I will click on, I can click on this launch instance, right? Or I can just go on to this instances page. where you will have the list of all the instances that you have created, right? And here you can click on the click on this launch instance, and this page will appear. Okay, so choose EC2 dashboard and then launch instance. So this kind of page will appear, right? And you can click on this launch instance. So the launch and instance page opens. So choose the following settings on the launch and instance page. So under the name and tags, enter the name as EC2 database connect. So let me copy this name, and in the name I will paste this particular thing here. Then under the application and OS images, choose Amazon machine image, choose choose Amazon Linux, and then choose the Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. Keep the default selections for the other choices. Okay, so here what we have to do, right? So we have to select an Amazon machine image. Means what kind of operating system do I want on my machine or on my EC2 instance, right? So here I have to select Amazon Linux, right? I can also choose Mac OS. I can choose Ubuntu. Okay, I can choose. Okay, I can choose Windows. I can choose Red Hat. I can choose SUI Linux, and I can choose Debian. Okay, so according to our requirement, right, we can choose any of the operating system that we want to. Close my WhatsApp here. Okay, so here it is shown, and it's recommended that we should go ahead with Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. Okay, so here I will choose Amazon Linux. Okay, 2023 AMI, right? And here Amazon Linux is already selected, and I can also choose different. So let me make this thing again very clear, right? So some of you always ask me that can't I create, let's suppose in the documentation it's given that I have to choose Amazon Linux, right? So can't I choose Windows, and using my Windows EC2 instance I can connect to my MySQL RDS instance? It is possible. Okay, I would say it is possible. It's not that you have to follow each and everything blindly, or it's not that whatever is written here apart from this it's not possible. It's just to make you understand that this is how we can do stuffs. Okay, so currently I'm using Windows. My base operating system is Windows, right? My local system is Windows, and I have my SQL workbench installed on this Windows system, right? So similar kind of MySQL workbench I can also install on the Windows EC2 machine that I will be running, okay, on the EC2. If I'm having, by any chance, if I'm having a Windows operating system, I can do that particular thing also. That's like it's nothing too difficult, right? But because in the documentation currently it's given Amazon Linux, so we will go ahead with the Amazon Linux image itself. Okay. And here we will have different kind of Linux versions that we can choose from. So Amazon Linux 2023, right, kernel AMI this, Linux 2 LTS, right, long-term support with SQL Server 2009 standard and all these things, right? So I will just go ahead with the 2023 kernel image, right? Here instance type, right? So if I scroll down, so under instance type choose T2 micro, right? So here you can choose T2 micro or T3 micro, anything you want. So I believe if you are having a free tier, so the T2 micro and the T3 micro will be free for you guys. Else if you are not having a free tier, so you will be charged $0.0122 US on a per hour basis. Okay, so I hope most of you are having a free tier account, right? So even T3 micro is in the free tier. Else you can choose, you can click on this drop down, and you will be marked here, right, that what instance type are in the free tier. Okay, because my account has lapsed the free tier thing, so it's not showing in this particular account. Okay, then here you have to choose your key pair thing, right? So under the key pair login, choose a key pair name to use an existing key pair, to create a new key pair for the Amazon EC2 instance, choose create new key pair, and then use the create key pair window to create it. For more information about how creating a new key pair, see this particular link in the Amazon EC2 user guide. So here what we will do is, because I have already created a key pair, right? So I will select this VS17 key pair thing, right? Else what you can do is, you can click on this create key pair. You can give your key pair a name, right? You can keep this value as by default as RSA and .pem, and then you can just click on this create key pair and your key pair will be downloaded. That's it. Okay. Now in the network settings, okay. So for allow SSH traffic in network settings, choose the source of SSH connections to the EC2 instance. You can choose my IP if the displayed IP address is correct for the SSH connection. Otherwise, you can determine the IP addresses to use to connect to the EC2 instance in your VPC using secure shell connection or SSH, right? So here we will be using SSH to connect to our EC2 instance that we will launch just now. Okay, and for connecting to our EC2 instance via this SSH, we have created this key pair thing. So to determine your public IP address in a different browser or tab, you can use a service at this thing, right? An example of an IP address is this. So you can just click on this link and the IP address of your device will be visible here, right? That's it. That's all you have to do. So in many cases, you might connect through an ISP or internet service provider or from behind a firewall without a static IP address. If so, make sure to determine the range of IP addresses used by the client computers. Okay, so this is not for us, right? We are not having any kind of a dynamic IP address, right? Or we are not an ISP, right? We are a simple internet user. So in this case, we will have a static IP address. The IP address of my device will not change, right? So I need not worry too much about it. So what this particular paragraph is saying is, so if I am an ISP, right? So ISP has multiple devices and it can connect to the instances using multiple devices. So I will have to mention a range of IP addresses that I want to connect to, or maybe if my device is, let's suppose, a office device, right? In that particular case, I can mention the range of the firewall of my IP address of the device that I will be using to connect to the EC2 instance. Okay, so this is what it's saying. So here in this case, what I will do is I can just choose everything by default. Here I can click on this allow SSH traffic, right? And here I will allow, either I can give some kind of custom things, right? Where I can select some kind of range of IP addresses, right? So I can attach these security groups, and using this these security groups, right, I will be able to select a range of IP addresses. Or else what I can do is I can just select it for my IP, that on this particular instance I can only SSH or I can only connect using my device, right? That is my local device. Okay, my laptop. Only my laptop in this world will be having this particular IP, right? No other machine will have this particular IP legally, right? Let me mention this particular fact again very clearly, that legally no other machine in the world will have this particular IP address apart from me. Again, you guys can raise a question that, okay, if a hacker masks his IP address and all those stuff, then for sure he can have, right? It's not a very big deal. Then warning, if you use 0.0.0/0 for SSH access, you make it possible for all IP addresses to access your public EC2 instance using SSH. This approach is acceptable for a short time in the test environment, but it's unsafe for production environments. In production, authorize only a specific IP address or range of addresses to access your EC2 instance using the SSH. Okay. So again, if I'm mentioning this thing as 0.0.0, then anyone in the world who is having the IP address of my EC2 instance will be able to connect to it. It will not ask for any kind of other authentication to the user. Okay. But right, so and again, right, you can see rules with the source of 0.0 allow all IP addresses to access the instance. We recommend setting user group rules to allow traffic from only the known IP addresses, right? So that we don't get, see, hacking is altogether a different thing. We can get hacked and all those things are different. But people can, in this case, maybe do some kind of bot attack, right? They may send n number of requests that can make my server down. It will make my server overwhelmed, and ultimately my server will go down, right? So to I would say to escape from all these problems, right? We always try to do such a way, or we always try to set a rule where we only and only allow the IP addresses that are trusted. Okay. So here again, following image you will have some kind of sections like this. So here you can choose my IP address, leave the default values of the remaining section as it is, review the summary of your EC2 instance configuration in the summary panel, and when you are ready, choose the launch instance. Okay. So you have to keep rest of the things as by default. Here you can, if you want to configure your storage, maybe if you want to attach more storage to your EC2 instance, you can attach it. But else I believe 8 GB is more than enough for us for right now. So I will not be attaching any more volumes. Okay. So here in the summary section, you can see, right, what all things you want to do. So the number of instance that we are launching is 1. If I want to launch more than 1 instance having the same configuration, so we can just increase the number of instances to that particular number. Okay. Then the software or the AMI that we are using. So the details are here, right? The instance type that we are using, the firewall that we are using, and the volume that we have attached. Once done, I can just click on this launch instance button. Or if I want to connect to this particular EC2 instance with the help of some kind of SDK, maybe some kind of CLI, right? So I can use these codes to connect to it, right? So if I want to create a security group, so I can just copy this particular code and I can run this code on Amazon CLI, AWS CLI, and it will run. Authorize access security group in ingress, it will run and run the instances. So with this particular command, you can launch an AWS instance using AWS CLI. If you want a Python SDK, or I would say if you want to connect or maybe launch an instance using Python SDK, in that case, you can utilize this particular code to launch this exact similar kind of instance using the Python code. So this particular code will launch this same instance via the code itself. Okay. So currently we will not be using any kind of code. I will be directly launching it using the UI itself. So I can just click on this launch instance and it will hardly take a few seconds to launch my instance. Okay. So now I can click on this instances and now you can see the instance is in running state. Here you can see the name of the instance that I have given. You can find the instance ID here, the instance state, instance type. Okay. Status check is initialized. Alarm status, availability zone. So AP South 1B is the availability zone, right? Then you can find the public IP4 DNS. So Amazon.com, right? So this is the public IP4 DNS of my EC2 instance. That is the endpoint that we also usually say. And this is the public IP4 address, right? Elastic IP we don't have. IPv6 IPs we don't have. Monitoring is disabled. This is the security group that has been attached. This is the key pair that has been attached. And this is the launch time at which I launched my EC2 instance. This is the platform that we are using. Managed is false and operator is null. Okay. Again, you can get further more details about your instance, right? If you will just click on this, you have to just click on this instance, something like this, and you will get all the details about your instance here. Okay. Now on the launch instance page, note the identifier of your EC2 instance. For example, this will be the identifier. So here, the instance ID is basically the identifier of your EC2 instance. Choose the EC2 instance identifier to open the list of EC2 instances and then select the EC2 instance. In the details tab, note the following values which you will need to connect using the SSH. So in instance summary, note the IP4 DNS, right? That is this value, okay? Public IPv4 DNS. Same thing you can also get here also, public DNS, okay? And instance in the instance details, note the value of the key pair name. Okay, that's it. Wait until the instance state is of your EC2 instance is in the running state before continuing. So our EC2 instance is in running state, so we can continue further. Now what we have to do is we have to create a MySQL database instance. So the building block of Amazon RDS is the database instance. This environment is where you run your MySQL databases. In this example, you choose Easy Create to create a database instance running the MySQL database engine with a db.t3.micro database instance class. So to create a MySQL database instance with Easy Create, sign in to the AWS Management Console and open the RDS console. So here I can just come here, right? And I can search for maybe the RDS console. So here let me go to database, right? And in database I can clearly see Aurora and RDS, right? And I will just click on it. So here my RDS page, or I would say my RDS dashboard will get launched. Okay. Now what I have to do next is in the upper right corner of the Amazon RDS console, choose the Amazon region you used for the EC2 instance previously, right? So we have to make sure that this region that we are selecting is the same as the region of our EC2 instance. It's not, again, let me make this very clear. It's not mandatory, right? I can very easily launch this particular instance, launch the instance in some other region, but in that case, the connectivity will not be as simple as we are doing in this video. Okay, because if I am launching my database instance in some other region, in that particular case, I will not be able to access directly access, I would say, the EC2 instance of the Mumbai region. Okay. So in the navigation pane, choose databases. So I will come here and I will click on databases. Okay. Now choose the database and make sure the Easy Create is chosen. Okay. So I will click on create database, right? And I will click on Easy Create. Okay. Now in configuration, choose MySQL. Okay. So I will, in the configuration, I will choose MySQL. Okay. So for DB instance size, choose free tier. Free tier appears in the free plan account. Sandbox appears in the paid plan accounts. So here, if your account is eligible for the free tier, you will have something called as free tier account, right? So instead of this sandbox, you will have the free tier database that you will have the access to. Else, if it is like your account is not it's not available for the free tier thing, you will see this sandbox option. So you can choose this sandbox also. You will be hardly charged 0.025 USD per hour. Okay, so you can choose this sandbox. And let's go back. So for database instance identifier, enter database test1. Okay, so let me just copy this thing. And instead of, for this identifier, I will choose as database test1. Okay. Then for the master username, enter a name of the master user or keep the default name. Okay. So here the default name is admin. If I want, maybe I can choose my name, right? I can give the master name as Vishal. Okay. Then here credential management, I will choose as self-managed, and here I will give my master password. So okay, so to create the database page looks similar to the following image. In the free plan account, free tier appears. For the paid plan, sandbox appears, right? So here, either if it is a free tier, you will choose free tier, else you will see the sandbox here. Now you can automatically generate the master password of the database instance and select auto generate password. To enter your master password, make sure auto generate password is cleared, and then enter the same password in the master password and confirm password. Okay, so let me keep my password as root. Okay, here also I will root. That's it. Cool. And then what I will do is to set up a connection with the EC2 instance you previously created, open setup EC2 connection, and again this is optional. Select the EC2 of select connect to an EC2 compute resource. Choose the EC2 instance you created previously. Okay. So here in this setup EC2 connection, right, I will click on connect to EC2 resource, and in this drop down I will have the list of all the EC2 instances that I have, right? So currently, because I'm having only one single EC2 instance, so I can just click on this, right? And here it will give you some information that some VPC settings can't be changed when a compute resource is added. Okay, so adding an EC2 compute resource automatically selects the VPC, database subnet group, right, and the public access settings of this database. To allow the EC2 instance to access the database, VPC security group RDS-EC2-X is added to the database, and another called EC2-RDS-X is added to the EC2 instance. To remove the new security groups for the database only by removing the compute resource. Okay, so if we want to attach our own security group to the database, in that case I will have to remove this particular EC2 instance that is attached to the RDS. Okay, so I will keep it as by default, right? And then I can view the default settings for the easy create. Okay, so I will just click on this drop down, right, and I will be able to see all the details here. Okay, make sure guys, make sure and keep a track of these details here, because after launching this instance I will also try to launch using the full configuration, then you will see the difference. Okay, so here you can see that configuration encryption, it's enabled. And is it editable after database is created? So no, it's not editable. VPC is again it's not editable, and the default VPC is this. Multi availability zone, so currently the value is no, it's editable after we have launched our database instance. Option group is this, and it's editable. Subnet group is this. Automated backups is enabled. VPC security group is RDS EC23. Publicly accessible is no. Database port is this. Database instance identifier is database test1. Database engine version is this. Database parameter group values is this. Monitoring type is standard. Performance insight is not enabled. Monitoring is enabled. Maintenance is auto minor version upgrade is enabled, and delete protection is not enabled, right? So these options, most of the options like database groups, right, publicly accessible, database engine version, database parameter groups are automatically taken by default from the AWS itself, right? We have not entered these values in the easy create option, right? So what I will try to do is I will just click on this create database, and now it will start creating the database instance for me. Okay. So now the database instance is in the creation phase. So once this particular database will be in the running state or in the available state, then only we can do our further things. So we will have to wait until the status of this database changes. Okay, so the database instance has been created, right? And the connection between the database and the EC2 has been done, right? But the status currently is in backing up, right? And we will have to wait, I guess, 1 or 2 more minutes to get it in the running state. Okay. So our database is now in the available state. Okay. It means we have successfully launched our database instance, right? And we have, even in the message you can see, successfully created database test 1, and you can use the settings of the database test 1 to simply configuration of the suggested database add-ons while finishing the upgrade and all these things. Also, successfully setting up a connection between the database test 1 and the EC2 instance, which is this, right? Now, one more thing that I want to show you guys is, now if I go to create database and if I go to full configuration, and here if I select MySQL, okay, so here you will have multiple more options, right? So here, first of all, edition wise, you can choose MySQL community edition, right? So here we are using only the community edition. Here I can also choose the engine version. So automatically in this case, right, or I would say in the previous thing, which was the easy create one, right? In that case, it automatically chose the version for us. But here, if we want to go ahead with some other version, let's suppose I want to choose 8.4.7, right? Which I believe is the latest one, right? So this version is the latest one. So I can choose this version, right? Now I can choose a template. So I will go ahead with the sandbox itself, right? And here you can see clearly, right, that in the sandbox, only the single availability zone deployment is available. So we will get only single availability zone database instance deployment. I will get only one instance. Okay. Creates a single database instance without standby instances. This setup provides 99.5% of uptime and no data redundancy. Cool. If I will go for dev and test environment, then I have all the three options open for me. So I can go ahead with the multi availability zone instance deployment, where I will have two instances now, right? So you can see here very clearly in the image that we are only having our primary instance, right? And both read and write will be in the same instance, right? If you will notice at this icon, so it says that both read and write operations will be done on the primary instance itself. Okay. Now if I talk about the multi-availability zone database instance deployment, where I will have two instances. So creates a primary database instance with a no readable standby instance in a separate availability zone. This provides 99.95% of uptime and redundancy across the availability zones, right? So here it will be created in multiple availability zones, right? This availability zone will be different. Where did it go? Okay. Here you can also see, right? Here this is availability zone 2, this is availability zone 1. But here also it will be just creating a copy of this primary instance. So this will be just a copy of this instance, and it will be on a standby mode. Means when this primary instance goes down, then only I will be able to switch over to this particular instance. It's not that if my concurrent request increases, so I will be able to switch over to this particular instance, right? Only if this primary instance goes down, then only I will be able to switch over to my standby instance. Okay. Now there is a second option that is available, that is multi-availability zone database cluster deployment, where we will have three instances. Okay. So this creates a primary database instance with two readable standby separate availability zones, which provides again 99.95% of uptime, redundancy across multiple availability zones, increased read capacity, and reduced write latency. Okay. So again, as we have already talked about this concept, right, where we are having a high input output data, right? In that particular case, what we can do is we can create a reader endpoint, right, or a database that we will only be using for the read purpose, right? So for the users who only want to read, right? So let's suppose this is my user. Okay. Let's say this is a user who is only doing a read operation. So I will not redirect the request to my primary instance. What I will do is I will redirect his request to the read instances, right? He will be able to read from here, something like this. Okay, he will get it. Now another user is there. Let me take this blue color. Okay, who wants to write now? Okay, he wants to do read and write operation both, let's say in this case, right? So if he wants to write anything, he will be writing to this particular database instance, right? And if he wants to read, he can read from this database instance, as well as he can also read from here also. There is no kind of limitation that the user will not be able to read from the primary instance. In primary instance, you will be able to do both read and write operation, right? But in the readable standby, you will only be able to read, you will not be able to write the things. And here it will use all the three availability zones, AZ1, AZ2 and AZ3, right? And it will deploy them in multiple availability zones. Okay. So here the read latency will also goes down, right? Whereas the write latency will also go down, because both read and write operation will not perform on the same database, right? So even write will happen faster in this particular instance. Okay. So let's try to go ahead with this multi-availability zone deployment, and then I will be deleting it after once it has been launched. Okay. So here I can name, let's suppose database with multi-AZ deployment. Okay, multi-AZ, something like this. Again, I will choose my master username, let's say as admin in this particular case. I can keep it as self-managed, and I can put my master password same as root root. Okay, here also I will give root. Okay, so here it will ask you for password authentication. So what kind of additional credential settings do you want to create? If you want to, right? Then instance configuration. Okay, so do you want your instance of the standard class, of memory optimized class, of compute optimized class, right? And you can choose your instance from here, right? In the easy create, we did not also have the options to choose the instance, right? But here we have the option to choose the instance, so we will choose the lowest instance. So I believe, let me go ahead with the standard class. Okay, standard is having higher instance. Let me go ahead with compute itself, and this is the lowest instance, right, that we have. Again, in the storage, right, which we have already read, that we have multiple storage types, right? We have magnetic storage, then we have general purpose SSD, then we have provisioned input output storages, right? So here we will be able to select our storage type also, right? So if I want to go ahead with the general purpose SSD, if I want to go ahead with the provisioned IOPS SSD, or if I want to go ahead with the provisioned IOPS SSD, that is input output 2, right? So for low latency and high durability and input output extensive storage. Okay, so let's go ahead with general purpose itself. Okay, connectivity wise, right, I can set up some kind of connectivity with the EC2 instance also. Else, let's, in this case, let's say I'm not setting up any kind of connectivity with the EC2 instance. Okay, I can, in this case, select my own database subnet group. If I want to make it publicly accessible, I can make it publicly accessible also, which will assign a public IP address to the cluster. Okay, and if anyone will have this particular public IP address, he will be directly able to connect to the cluster without any kind of EC2 machine required to connect to this particular cluster. Okay, if we want to choose any kind of security group of firewall, I can either create a new group or I can choose from existing one, right? These are the security groups. Let's keep it default only. I can also do RDS proxy if required. I can do the certificate thing. I can add additional tags, right? Monitoring wise, I can choose the advanced monitoring, where it will retain the database performance for 15 months, right? Fleet level monitoring, integration with Apple CloudWatch, and all these things. Here, let's go ahead with the standard itself, where it will retain for 7 days. Okay, and all these things. Now you can get the enhanced monitoring also option also available with you. Log exports, so audit log, error log, general error log, and so slow carry log. If you want to attach any kind of these logs to your IAM, you can attach these things also, right? Additional configuration, again, uh, initial database name, your cluster parameter group, and all these things also you can choose from, right? And then here you can see that estimated monthly cost will be, for database instance it will be this much, and for storage it will be this much, and total cost will be 318 USD per month. Okay, so if I just change it to INR. Okay, if I just do a right click and do a Google search. Okay, so this kind of configuration will cost me around 29,000 rupees per month. Okay, so I will quickly create this database instance so that I can also show you guys that how we can do a multi availability zone deployment. Okay, so I have asked it to create or to deploy this particular thing, right? And I will quickly show it to you, and I will delete it, and then we will move forward. So here you can see, right, that the database has been created. Okay, successfully created database this, and again it is trying to do some kind of modifications. It is creating, right. You can see here also reader instance, writer instance, right, multi availability zone cluster deployment. So again, it will take, I guess, hardly a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, right, and it will be available for us. So again, let me make this very very clear, guys, that don't try to deploy this kind of infrastructure for the learning purpose, right. It is more of a thing when we are doing a production level project, right. When we have some kind of production level data and production level project, in that particular case you should go ahead with this kind of deployment. But I'm showing you guys so that you guys first of all have the knowledge of how to do these multi availability zone deployment, right, firstly. Secondly, secondly is because these things we have learned in a theoretical way, right. So you can also get that practical intuition that how these multiple availability zone deployment are being done, right. Here you can see in the region and availability zone also that it has deployed in region AP South 1, right, and it has deployed in the three availability zone, right. So first one is deployed here in availability zone 1A. The primary one is deployed in availability zone 2. Sorry, so this is the writer instance, right. Yes, so this is the primary instance, so this is deployed in availability zones AP South 1B, and the third one is deployed, that is the reader one, in availability South 1C, right. So let it get configured, and in a few minutes also you will be able to see many more informations. Okay, so you can see the database instances has been deployed, right, but even the cluster is currently not available. So I believe now we can start doing it. Wait. Okay. So let me again, like I have to explain only. So let me start explaining you guys, right? So here you can see the database identifier, right? So this is the database name that we had given when we were trying to launch our cluster, right? So now this is not a database instance. This has now become a cluster, right? Again, the status is currently not up and running. All of the things are not up and running. So still the status is in modifying state, right? Role is multi availability zone database cluster, right? Engine is MySQL community, right? Upgrade is right. Upgrade rollout order is second. Region wise, right? So it is in AP South 1, right? If you want to know more about all the things, so you can expand it, right? And you will be able to see the different availability zones in which it is deployed. Size wise, so this is DB this size, right? Maintenance is none, VPC is this, and availability zone deployment is 3 zone deployment, right? And if you have to get the information about one single database instance out of this cluster, so you can click on that particular database instance and you will get to know all the information about that particular database inside that cluster, right? So this is the endpoint of our main database instance, that is database multi availability zone instance 1, right? Something dot az ap south 1 rds amazon.com, right? Monitoring wise, you can get all the monitoring details here. Okay. So currently, because we have not done any operations on this, we don't have any kind of details. Event logs, configurations, maintenance and backup, tag recommendations, and all these details you will be having right here. Okay. So you can see you can use settings and all these things. If you want to view connection details, so this is your admin password and this is the password that we have, and this is the endpoint for our cluster. Okay, this is the endpoint of the cluster and not the endpoint of any of the uh, I would say any of the instances. Okay, so this is how basically you can create your multi availability zone cluster deployment also, but it will only and only will be available inside the full configuration deployment. It will not be available inside the easy create deployment. Okay, so I hope you guys have also understood that how we can do the multi availability zone deployment. So what I will do is I will try to select this multi availability zone thing, and in the actions I will click on this delete button so that I can delete it. So don't create the final snapshot. I acknowledge and I will do as delete me. Okay, and delete db cluster. So now I have initialized it to get deleted. So it will take again a single minute or so to delete the instances. Okay, it's taking a long time to delete. Did not take even this much time to get created. The long time that is taking to get deleted. Okay, so let me do one thing, guys. As we have already created our database instance, right? So I can skip this and I can now do what? I can connect to the database SQL instance. I hope it will take, I'm not very sure ideally it should get deleted because it did not even take this much time to get created, right? So not very sure how much time it will take to get deleted. I believe because these are three databases, for that reason it's taking this long time. Even here you can see the CPU resource utilization and all these stuffs. Current activity, maintenance, VPC, availability zones and everything. Deleting. Okay. The status is now in the deleting phase. So again, I would recommend you guys to do the same thing by yourself, that once you have launched the instance, you have understood how you can launch this multi availability zone deployment and everything, right? You can use it for some time, right? I'm not saying that you have to delete it then and there. You can use it for a few, maybe few minutes, few hours, right? You will be hardly charged maybe 100 rupees or so, right? And then after that, make sure to delete it, because if you forget to delete it, right, you will be charged for the configuration that I have chosen. I will be charged around 30,000 rupees every month. It means I will be charged 1000 rupees on a daily basis. So let's say if you forget it for 5 days, unnecessarily you will be charged 5000 rupees. Charging 5000 rupees is not a very big deal, but getting charged unnecessary for even the service that you have not used, that hurts a bit, I would say, right? Let's suppose I have done my learning, right? I explored multiple services, I explored multiple tools, and then if I am getting charged 5000 rupees, then it's totally fine. Okay, at least I invested that particular money, right? But if I'm getting charged just because I forgot some instance, right, running, like I ran some instance, I did a few things and I forgot it for a few days, and now then if I'm getting charged 5000 rupees, in that case, it hurts a bit, I would say. Okay, so you can see like one of the database instances now down, right? It has been deleted, and slowly and gradually it will delete all the database instances that are present here. Okay, so alright guys, so now you can see that the database cluster has been successfully deleted, right? And now we are only having two services. That is, first of all, our EC2 instance, and the other service that we are having is our MySQL RDS database instance. Okay. Now let's talk about how we will be able to connect to the MySQL database instance. Okay. So you can use any standard MySQL client application to connect to the database instance. In this example, you connect to the MySQL database instance using the MySQL command line client. Okay, so either we can go ahead with the command line shell, right? The command line client that will be similar to a terminal. Else, if we are going ahead with, let's suppose, operating system like Windows on our EC2 instance, in that particular case, we can also go ahead with the MySQL Workbench kind of interface, which will have this UI kind of interface available for us. Okay. So to connect to the MySQL database instance, first the endpoint, that is the DNS name and the port number of your database instance, right? To sign in to the AWS console management, Amazon RDS console, at this particular link on the upper side of the corner of the AWS console, choose the AWS region for the database instance. In the navigation pane, choose database, choose the MySQL database instance name to display its details. Okay. On network and security tab, copy the endpoint. Also note the port number. You need both the endpoint and the port number to connect to the database instance. Okay. So I'll come here. I will select the database instance. Here in the network and security tab, you will be able to see the endpoint and the port number that we will require to connect to this particular database. Okay. Next, connect to the EC2 instance that you created earlier by following the steps in Connect Your EC2 Linux instance in the AWS guide. We recommend that you connect your EC2 instance using SSH. If the SSH client utility is installed on Windows, Linux or Mac, you can connect the instance using the following command format. Okay. So for connecting to the EC2 instance currently, right, I will be using a tool called as MOBA Extreme. So you can just search for MOBA Extreme, download. Okay. And you can just click on this particular link, and here in the home edition, which is the free edition one, you can click on download, right? The file will be downloaded. And similar to installing any other application, you can just do next, right? And your MOBA Extreme will be installed on your host machine. Okay. Once the installation is complete, you can just go here and search for MOBA Extreme, right? And you can click on this MOBA Extreme and it will open a terminal like this. Okay. Now you have to keep in mind, when you created this instance, you downloaded a key pair, right? We downloaded a key pair of ours, right? So I have downloaded the key pair. It is present on my desktop. Okay. So I will do what? Okay. I will open a new terminal. Let me zoom in a bit. So here, if I do ls and if I go to cd desktop, okay, and if I do ls, right, so you can see .pem file is present here on my desktop. Okay, so I will come back here again to the documentation, and I will use this SSH command to get connected to my EC2 instance. Okay, so I will do SSH-I location of my PEM file, right? EC2 user at the rate EC2 instance public DNS name. So I will come here and you can see this is the public DNS name of my EC2 instance. So I will come here in the terminal. I will write what? SSH-I. Okay. Location of the PEM file. So in the current location itself, my PEM file exists. So I will just pass the name of my PEM file. That is vs17-key pair.pem. Okay. And then what I will do is EC2 user at the rate DNS name. So EC2 user at the rate, and then the instance public DNS name. So I will come here, I will copy this public DNS name and I will paste it here. Okay, that's it. And once I run this command, so now I am connected to my EC2 instance, right? If I do, let's suppose ls here, right? So you can see currently it is not showing anything because we have a absolutely new machine up and ready for us, right? And here also you can see EC2 user at the rate, and we are getting the IP address of the machine right here. Okay, it means I am connected to my EC2 instance now. And now what I will do is, for example, assume that EC2 key pair name is this and the director is this, right? So this is how your command will look like: SSH-I, okay, dir1 EC2 instance database .pem file, and EC2 user at the rate your DNS name, EC2 DNS name will look something like this. Now get the latest bug fix and security update by updating the software on the EC2 instance. So to do this, use the following command. Okay, so sudo dnf update -y. So I will just copy this command, come back here, right, and I will paste it. So it will update my software or the Linux OS that is present on my EC2 instance. Okay, so you can see it is now complete. I will come back here. Now to install the MySQL command line client for MariaDB on Amazon, you can use this particular command. So I will just click on this, right, and I will install this particular database. I will click on say as yes. Okay, and now the installation has been completed. Okay, now to connect to the MySQL database instance, for example, enter the following command. This action lets you connect to the MySQL database instance using the MySQL client. Substitute the database instance endpoint DNS name for endpoint, and substitute the master username that your username for admin. Provide the master password that you prompted for the password. Okay, so MySQL -h. Okay, so here I will have to write MySQL, okay, -h. -h stands for host. Okay, so host is what? Host is this thing, right? My public endpoint. So I will come back to the terminal. I will paste it here, right? And then I will have to do what? -p 3306, right? So default port number is 3306. Okay, and then what I will do? Admin, right? -u, and instead of admin, I remember that my username was Vishal, right? That's it. I will just press enter. Okay, sorry. And here I will do what? -p. So it will prompt me to enter my password. Okay, enter. And now here you are. Here it is prompting us to enter the password, right? So I know that my password is root. So I will write root. Okay. Here in this case, you will see in the terminal that it will not show you anything, right? It will not show you something like star, right? Or it may not show you anything, just like we enter our password in websites. So we are shown stars and all those things, right? Those things will not be shown here. Okay. You just have to type it and you just have to press enter. And now you can see here that we are inside our MySQL database. Okay. So after entering the password for the user, you will see similar kind of output. So welcome to MongoDB monitor and all those stuffs. And here you will see MySQL. So for more information about connecting to MySQL instance, you can click on this particular link. If not connected, you can go on to this particular link. For security, it's best practice to use encrypted connections. Only use the unencrypted MySQL database connection when the client and server are in the same VPC and the network is trusted. For information, you can go on to this particular link. Okay. Now run the SQL command. For more example, the following SQL command shows the current date and time. So I will just copy this command first of all, and I will paste it here, not twice. I will have to only paste it once. And if I run it, so you can see, I can see the current date and time. But here you will see that the time currently here it is showing is 1:14:58, right? But the time here currently is 6:45 p.m. right? The date is correct. It is 17th of January itself. But currently it is 6:45 p.m. But it is showing 13:45. 13:14:54, right? Why? Because it is showing us the UTC time. If I check, let's say UTC time now, okay, so you will see it is 1:15 p.m. okay, and you can see, right, it is showing 1:14:54 p.m. right? It means it is showing us the UTC time. Okay. So now if this particular command is running, it means that we have successfully connected to the MySQL RDS instance. Okay, we are able to communicate to the MySQL RDS instance. If I come back to the terminal, right, and if I write any command here, let's suppose as show databases. Okay, and if I press enter, right, so I have the information of all the databases that are present currently here. If I want to create a new database, so I can do anything, right? Create database, right? I can give database name as, let's suppose, Euron DB. Okay, Euron DB, right? And if I press enter, so the database has been created. Now if I do show databases again, so you can see the Euron DB has been created, right? And I can now do as use Euron DB. Okay, and here currently you can see that none is there, means no database has been selected. As soon as I will do use Euron DB and I will press enter here, so you can see database changed, and from the MySQL you can say you can clearly see that Euron DB has been selected, right? And now if I do, let's suppose, anything as show tables, right? So currently, because there is no table present in my Euron DB, so it will show us the empty set, right? But I can also do, let's suppose, create table. Okay, let's say students. Here I can have, let's say, ID of the student who will have which will have an integer value. I can have name, right, which will have, let's suppose, a varchar value, right? I can have marks, which will have integer value, and let's say I can have email ID, okay, which will have a varchar 50 value, not O50. Okay, and I will close it and I will try to run this command. Okay, sorry, not create tables. I will write here as create table. Okay, so now the code is successful, and now if I do show tables, so you can see the students table has been created successfully. Okay, so our students table has been created. Now let's suppose maybe I want to insert some data, right, into this particular students table. So I will do what? Insert into, right, insert into students. Okay, and I will pass the column name here, let's say ID, name, marks, and email, right? And I can add the values as, let's suppose, ID is 1, name is, let's suppose, Vishal Singh, right? Marks is let's suppose 46, right? And email is vishal@gmail.com. Okay, done. And if I press enter, so you can see query okay, and one row is affected, means one row got inserted, and this much time it took, that is 0.042 seconds to insert this particular value, right? And now if I do select star from students, so you can see the value that we inserted is present here. Now if I want to insert multiple values, let's say, right, insert into students, right, ID, name, marks, email, right? Values wise, let's say 2, right? I can keep anything, let's say Priya, Kumar, okay? Marks is, let's suppose 56, okay? And email wise, let's say it is priya@gmail.com, okay? And here, let's say ID is 3, right? Name is, let's say Rohan, okay? Anything, Rohan Sharma, okay? Marks is, let's suppose 87. Email is rohan@gmail.com, okay? Enter. So you can see 2 records are updated and 2 records are inserted. Now again I can do select star from students, right? If I press enter, so you can see all the 3 rows I can see very clearly here, right? Why I am showing you these things is because now if I go to my database instance, I open it, and if I go to the monitoring tab, so you will be able to see some activities here, right? So you can see that the bin log disk users got up, right? It got used somewhere. Burst balance, again, it got used somewhere, right? CPU credit balance, you can see there was a spike when we started doing some kind of operations, right? Database connections, right? One connection was made here. So currently we are connected to the database. So you can see there is one concurrent connection right now that is made to the database, right? Database load is no data adjustable currently, right? CPU load, non-CPU load, right? VRAMs currently it is not there, right? This is for last 5 minutes. I can make it for 15 minutes also, right? Let's say 1 hour also, okay? Something like this, okay? So we can compare using this thing in the CloudWatch, right? So we can get all the logs and events also if necessary, right? So database instance was restarted, it got created, monitoring interval changed to 60 seconds, right? Database backing up, finishing the database instance backup, then finishing the database parameter group and all these stuffs, okay? Now it is clear, right? And like I would say it is evident that we are able to connect to our RDS instance, that is the MySQL RDS instance, using the EC2 instance, right? So here, what kind of architecture we have followed? We have followed this same architecture for connecting to the database RDS instance. That is this user. It tried to connect to the EC2 instance, right? If I scroll at the top, right? So first of all, I connected to the EC2 instance, right? And now using this EC2 instance, after connecting to the EC2 instance, I first of all installed the MySQL database client using which I am able to interact with my database, okay? So after connecting to the instance, I did what? In this command you can see, okay? Sorry, okay? Here you can see I tried to install the database instance, okay? After installing the database instance, I connected to the database using this command, okay? Using this command, and now once I used this particular thing, I got connected to my database. Okay. Now if I copy this particular thing, right? If I copy it whole and I open a new terminal, okay. Let's suppose I also do cd desktop, right? And if I paste the command here, okay. If I paste the command here, it's saying that apt install MySQL command not found. Okay, so currently it is saying us that we have to install MySQL. So currently, obviously, this will not work in my system because it is a Windows based system. Okay, so even though if I try to run it, press Y to continue. Okay. Okay, so I guess it will install it on my desktop. Okay, let it download, let it install. Okay, and now if I run the previous command again, okay, so you can see it's not even prompting me to enter the password, right? If I do control C here and if I try to run it again, right, you can see it's not allowing me to connect directly to my database instance. Why? Because my database instance is in a private subnet. I will not be directly able to connect to my database instance in this way. Okay. In this way, I will not be able to connect directly to my database instance. And for that reason itself, you can also see here, right, that error 202 cannot connect to the MySQL server on this particular link, right? Whereas if I here if I come, right, and if I do, let's suppose exit, okay. So now it has set us by, and now I am in my EC2 instance, right? And now using my EC2 instance, if I want to connect again to my database, okay, not this one. I have to use this command. Okay, and I will have to enter here -p and root enter browse, right? So you can see now that again I am connected to the MySQL database. Again, if I do Euron DB, right? So I'm connected to my Euron DB, show tables, so tables, I can get the list of the tables, select star from students. Okay, all the students are listed here. It means everything is running perfectly fine for me. Here also, even if you will try to enter here -p, so don't think that if I have not entered -p, let's suppose I enter root, right? Again, it will try to connect it and it will say that cannot connect to the MySQL server like this. it is taking a long time because it is doing some kind of retries. Okay, for the in the first try it tried to connect, it was not able to connect, then it again went for a retry, again went for a retry, and after n number of times it will give us the error. Again we are getting the same error that we are not able to connect to my RDS instance. Okay, so I hope you guys have now understood how I will be how we will be able to create an EC2 instance, and using that particular EC2 instance, how I will be able to communicate to my RDS instance that is using my MySQL database engine in that particular instance. Right now, I have to do what? I have to delete these instances. I have to delete these instances so that I don't get charged for using these instances. So if I have to delete it, right? So I just will select this particular EC2 instance. I will come to actions. Sorry, I will come to instance state drop down, and I will click on this terminate or delete instance button, and I will just click on this button, and it will ask us to do all these things, and I will just click on terminate and delete, and it will take just a few seconds to get it deleted. Okay, so now you can see that no instance match found means that EC2 instance has been deleted successfully. Now the same thing I will be doing with my database also, right? I will come here, I will select the database, right? I will click on the actions, and I will click on delete. One thing uh, I would like to tell you guys very clearly, that if you are using some kind of shared account, don't try to delete any resource which you are not aware about. Okay, if it is in running state, let it be in running state. If it is in idle state, let it be in the idle state. Don't try to touch I'm not talking about just the database or EC2 instance, any service. If you are not aware about the instance, if you are not aware about what exactly it is, let it be, leave it. Okay, so here I will select this database, right? Go to actions button, and here in the drop down I will just click on this delete button, and I will click it. You have to uncheck these things. You have to uncheck create this final snapshot, retain the automated backups, and you have to check this I acknowledge one. Okay, and here you will have to write delete me. Okay, and once you will do this, this delete button will become active, and you can click on this delete button, and it will start deleting the instance. So it will take, I guess, a minute or so to delete the instance. So it will start deleting it. So now you can see that our database instance has been successfully deleted. Now I will be only and only charged for the amount of time that I used the instance for. Now I will not be even charged a single penny for utilizing the resources, be it my EC2 instance or be it my RDS instance of any database engine. Okay, now I will be not charged any single penny for my resources. Okay, again, because we are not doing the cloud formation thing, it's not even necessary. Okay, and connect to the database instance using lambda function. So these things, right, I can discuss later on when I will be discussing more about the lambda functions and even about the RDS database instance itself, right? So we can skip this thing for this video, right? I can talk about these things in the upcoming videos which I will be creating. Cool. So with that said, guys, this is pretty much it for this particular video. I hope you guys learned something new in this video. I will see you in the next one. Till then, keep learning and keep growing. Bye bye.